You cannot lead others without leading yourself first. And I want your take on this of self-soothing versus self-care.
As the world health crisis hit and all the racial conversations, got amplified and escalated, thank goodness, we're all like stuck, with this world kind of seemingly falling apart. I heard so many people say, "Oh, mommy needs a glass of wine," or "I need a massage," or just even before the pandemic, working with many entrepreneurs, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to work my tail off and then go on a grand vacation. And it's like one day it kind of hit me. It's like, what if I just planned a life I didn't need a vacation from? What, even a good thing like massage isn't always self care. And what people do a lot is they have pretty outrageous, like, lifestyles out of balance, and then they try and fix it with what I call self-soothing. And self-soothing is like, how can I numb or put on hold for a while or procrastinate? Like, how can I take a break before I go back to the same worlds that caused me pain?
Right.
It's kind of a like, how do I just numb myself? And self-care is, how do I have daily habits and dedications that keep my energy supply high, that keep me restored and renewed, not just soothed or numbed. And so it really hit me when during the pandemic, and people were like, what was being revealed to some people was like, what's their relationship with solitude, and what's their relationship with uncertainty? And I was talking to a friend and who's also a meditator, and she said she was getting a lot of calls for people to learn to meditate now. And she goes, well, actually, kind of worst time to learn to meditate is like in a crisis. Like the meditators, those of us that have been meditating for years, had a good relationship with solitude and a good relationship with impermanence. And she was like, this is why we practice. So when we need it, we're not blown off center. And she started talking about how people wanted to meditate to self-soothe, and that's why they didn't stick with it. But if meditation was part of self-care, that it was just a daily practice of unhooking from your ego, you were going to have it made. So I really started to teach people the difference between self-soothing, which is I am exhausted and I want to take a break, and self-care. So during the pandemic, much surprise to myself, I stopped all alcohol. Like, I was shocked by this. Like, it kind of stopped me. But what I found out is I would be like, I'm getting anxious, and so I want to have a glass of wine. And while that first wine feels good, it interferes with your sleep. It actually increases your anxiety. Like it, and so it was like, I had a stressful day. I'm going to have a glass of wine instead of spending time to catch up or unplug. It was like I just procrastinated. Now I'd wake up the next day with an even more stressful day because I didn't feel that good. And I was like procrastinating. And I just started to realize how many of the things I do were a way to escape my world. And instead of building a world I didn't need escape from. Now, a lot of your listeners are hustlers. They're going to be like, oh, so I just have to not grow my business and I have to quit hustling. No, that's where And comes in. And brings in the innovation. The more balance and peace I have in my life, in fact, my mantra is, as the world picks up again, I will not go back to scheduling anything I cannot do peacefully.
I love that.
Like, no more red eye. Am I capable of red eyes? Yes. Am I going to do them? No. Bizarrely enough, since I have gotten so into self-care, when I do approach my work, it's so impactful and I'm so clear. My business during these times have grown and changed. And I sometimes have to call my team for a reality check. I'm like, I'm only working a couple days a week. Like, are we good? They're like, no, the plan's working. We're all fine. I'm like, but it doesn't feel like horrid. We are so conditioned that if we're succeeding, it's going to feel pretty awful and we need a break from it. And we do these things that soothe, like Netflix binge and so I would talk to people and they're like, I'm so tired all the time. And I'm like, what are you doing? Come home from work? You're like, well, I'm so exhausted. I kind of like, end up binging on Netflix. I'm like, do something really daring. go to bed every night at 9, wake up every morning at 6. And I didn't realize how much I love routine and dedication because I was a jet setter. I was in 5 different cities, 5 days a week. I was in over 200 companies a year. I built a great business. I am not doing any of those things right now. My business is better. My health is better. I'm more clear. I'm able to set boundaries because I'm spending the time being clear. My team is really clear. We're all very calm. Life is good, but it is self care, not self soothing. And so many of us run ourselves in the ground, then soothe ourselves, never fully restore, and then run ourselves in the ground and self soothe.